do a reading, which is called Gratitude, which is what I feel for your being willing to talk today. Let's start with the people we love and those who love us. Thankful they are in our lives, obliging us to open our hearts. Let open hearts embrace the earth, the sea and soil and the stars, blessed by bold beauty, the bounty of being. Then, with hearts open to beauty, let us embrace the arts and the generation of learning that we should have wisdom. Let what wisdom we have, won and wanting, lead us to strive so the seventh generation hence can live more fully. It is in that work and that alone that we can express our thankful spirit. May we make it so. For the opening to make it so, let us be truly grateful. Anita, thank you. And now it is your turn.
Thank you. You really can hear me now. I've got the mute button in the right place. Many people who have been in my position today have either said directly or implied that they had good childhoods. I'm not going to say it directly because I didn't have a good childhood. I had I may get weepy about this. I had a very abusive father. He was very physically abusive. And I had a physically abusive mother who was mentally abusive. And when I started school, nobody liked me. Maybe it's because I was expecting them to be abusive, and so I was not very nice to them. And one day I heard two boys talking, and one of them said to the other, "Did you see what Elias did today? But what can you expect from him? He's a Jew." And they said, his response was, "Well, he's a Jew, but you ought to see Anita. She's a kike." And a kike, if you don't know, is a terrible kind of Jew and isn't really anywhere on the totem pole even, because she can't make it onto the totem pole. So that was a difficult time. And when I got out of school, I got a job, and because I had been an English major, I was hired by Columbia University Press. And if you're an English major and you get hired by an outstanding publishing house, that's really a wow thing. Except I wasn't hired as a wow thing in the publishing house. I was hired as a typist. And my boss, Dr. William Bridgewater, was teaching a class at the university called Editing and Publishing. And I took that course and I passed it and I became an editor. That was a wonderful job. I loved doing the work, and I met so many interesting people. And most of all, I met my very best friend named Betty. And Betty and I did the same work. We were both editors. We were both acknowledged even in some of our authors' books. And it was just all over a good bond. And then one day, quite accidentally, I found that Betty was making a great deal more money than I was. And so I went to Dr. Bridgewater and I said, "How come?" And he said, "Mr. Charles, who was the head of the whole everything, is anti-Semitic." And I thought, my God, that's one of the reasons I left home. And here I am at one of the great universities, and I'm dealing with the same problem. So I left Columbia. I just felt that I could not stay there anymore. And I got another job, and I met a very nice man, and we got married. And he was working in New Jersey. So we both, of course, moved to New Jersey to a place called West Orange. And West Orange was a very pretty little community, and we were very happy there until one day the telephone rang, and it was Xerox Corporation. And Xerox said to my husband, "We've got a job for you." And if Xerox calls you and says, "We've got a job for you," you don't waste any time packing your suitcase. You just move very quickly to Rochester, which we did. And when we got to Rochester, I had nothing to do. And then I remembered my non-Jewish friend at Columbia, who said to me that she and her husband had gone to a Unitarian church in Pennsylvania, and that they had had a lot of fun there. Now, I had never heard of Unitarianism, but I was certainly ready for a lot of fun. So I came to this Unitarian church, and Bob West was preaching. And I felt that he was preaching only to me. He was saying exactly what I needed to hear. And then I found out that everybody else in the congregation felt the same way about themselves. He had this great gift of making, no matter how many people were there, that they were all having a private conversation with him. So I immediately signed the book, which let me become a member of this church. And I became a very active member of this church, as some of you may remember. During my years, many years of being an active member, not one person said to me, "Tell me about your religious background." Not one person, either they weren't interested or they didn't care, but no one said that to me. And I felt so at home, and I still do. So thank you for letting me tell you all this. I'm finished.
Brava.
Thank you, Mom.
This is Annette. I have a question. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening, Annette.
Anita, I didn't understand. Why did you leave that job when you were an editor? I didn't understand what you said. About that other one?
Because I met a man whom I was
No. Well, you said the other woman was making a lot of much more money than you were and something else. I didn't understand that.
Oh, I had to leave Columbia because I knew why she was making the money more.
But I don't understand why.
Because, I'm sorry, Mr. Charles, who is the head of the whole everything, he was anti-Semitic, according to Dr. Bridgewater. And that's
God.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Really.
So can you tell us about your religious background, your religious beliefs?
Is there a question?
Yeah, you said no one had asked you about your religious beliefs. Would you like to talk about that now?
I really have nothing to say about it. Nobody asked me. Nobody cared. I could have been from India or Pakistan or any place. This isn't how we greet people. We see people for who they are, period.
So it was a good thing that nobody asked you.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. That's what made me feel at home.
I think Anita, Dave Friedman, I think is one chapter you may or may not want to talk about, which is your long ski career with the Unitarian skiers.
Those were the great days. Yes, I skied with the minister of the church, and I skied with everybody else, and I only broke my ankle twice.
Oh. You didn't mention your dance career, Anita.
That was what I was going to ask about your dance career at church. We saw you dancing many times beautifully during services.
Oh, now you really are making me cry. So there was a woman at the church named Jane Stevenson, who I hope some of you remember, and she taught us how to dance. I really didn't know anything about this, and suddenly we were really okay, and we were dancing during the worship services because dance could be part of worship. So thank you for remembering that.
It was a wonderful experience for all of us.
Did that begin during Dick Gilbert's ministry?
It did.
Anita, this is Elaine. Where did you get your beautiful sense of fashion? Because every time I saw you at church or I've seen you at church, you looked exquisite.
I'm not going to answer that question.
Are you just going to rest on your laurels there?
My laurels are the secondhand shops in Rochester.
Good for you. Thank you.
Oh, Libby, we can't hear you.
I know. Jane Tuttle has had her hand up for a bit. So go ahead, Jane.
Anita, it's just a joy to see you. And I know there's so much more to you than what you've shared. And I got to know you. Well, first of all, dance. My mother was one of the dancers with Jane Stevenson, and she was an amazing woman. My mom and Jane also. And then Roy Wood came along. And were you dancing while Roy was still around? Were you still dancing when Roy came along? He was doing some leadership with that.
Yes.
Yeah. And where is he now? Do you know?
I have no idea. I'd love to know, but I don't.
Yes. Well, I wanted to ask you too, because I first got to know you well when I was staying with your two wonderful daughters, Stephanie and Valerie, when you went skiing with a Unitarian ski group. And I spent a week with them, which was just a joy. And so tell us about, were your daughters born in New Jersey or here in Rochester?
They were born here in Rochester, and I raised them. Oh, I do get weepy sometimes. They were raised in the Unitarian Church. They became Unitarians because of me, and I didn't have to drag them to church. They really wanted to come because it was a good experience for them. I know lots of parents really need to drag their children on Sunday morning. It was not that way in our home.
Yeah.
Deborah has her hand up, although she's also got her camera off. Okay, go ahead, Deborah.
I'm here. Anita, if you'd like to talk about this, I'm fascinated that despite how incredibly difficult your childhood was, you are a woman of excitement and passion and fun and joy. And I wondered how you helped yourself become that, given your past.
I have met a lot of very special people in my life, and I know that they have helped me a great deal. I also think that who we are, a lot of who we are, comes from within, and with certain circumstances, what is within comes out. And I think it was a combination of these wonderful people and this feeling within that brought all this nice stuff together that you're talking about.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you.
Thanks. Howie has his hand up.
Anita, it was clear, I think, that the anti-Semitism that you experienced in your early life was very hurtful. And I wonder, in a Unitarian Universalist setting where one can identify with any religion or not identify with a religion, you would have the safety to be Jewish or experience or relate to the Jewish heritage in your own way. So my question is, does your Jewish background have any meaning to you at this time in your life?
In our church, there are so many different backgrounds, and it is wonderful that they can relate to me and I can relate to them. I really know nothing or knew nothing about baptism or different phases of Christianity, but because we are the kind of welcoming group we are, we all have learned about Judaism and about baptism and Orientalism, whatever there is in people. We are interested in people, not in their past. And this is such a gift that we give.
The Schwartzes have their hand up.
I just wanted to say that it's nice that your daughters are in on this call, because I'm glad they grew up in the church, because our kids were in church school classes with them. And it's nice to think back to those days of putting on performances and just being around the church and hanging out. And it's a real gift that they're here this morning. So Valerie and Stephanie, thank you for being here.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you for remembering that. And that's all in my head now. Steve, how is Steve? I wish him well.
They're all doing well. Thank you.
Good. It was a haven. The church was a kind of haven. It was very nice. Yeah.
And we too remember the dances, Anita. That was a real gift.
I remember the dances. I also remember being on ski club trips with you, Anita, but we did not go on the trip where you made a connection with another Unitarian man. And tell us about that.
There are two of those, actually.
We met at church.
Tell us who we is.
You know, at this moment, I would like to not.
Okay.
But we met at church and we said, well, good morning. How are you? Oh, I don't know. Looks like it might rain. It's kind of dampy out. Or it's so cold, it might snow. And we had that kind of profound conversation. And then we went skiing together because of the Unitarian Ski Club. And I want to tell you that when you are in a freezing ski lift chair and you don't really want to talk about anything, what you want to do is snuggle so you can stay warm. And we did snuggle and became very good friends. You can't snuggle and not like somebody. So that's what happened.
Thank you. Ann Perry has her hand up.
Hi. I wondered if Valerie and Stephanie might say a little bit about what it was like growing up as Anita's children.
Well, you know, I think today is what's today? The 23rd, yesterday was Shakespeare's Day. Is that right? Anybody know? I think yesterday was
I don't know.
We'll believe you.
Yes.
Shakespeare's birthday, which was also his death day, apparently. Anyway, I mean, I could say many, many things about this, but I think one of the things I will say is that in our home, my mother was so poetic, really, and she quoted Shakespeare a lot. That's why I brought up Shakespeare. And so I don't know. I don't think it's one of those things I didn't realize at the time that was a significant thing in life, like to be exposed to that kind of beauty and articulation at such a young age. And
from memory.
What's that?
She would quote from memory.
Right. Oh, hi, Steffi. Like, where's this?
Not reading, she was quoting.
Right. And so then, I don't know. So like the three of us sort of developed this way of talking Shakespeareanly, or always, by the way, with very good grammar, which I found out later in my life was not that common necessarily. Like a lot of people I met didn't have good grammar. So, I mean, it's hard to say the whole story, but that is something that I've noticed and that I always feel grateful for, is sort of like an appreciation for language and humor. And nobody could laugh like the three of us could laugh together, I would say. Any agreement from my other family members?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, crying until we cry. That's how I would laugh.
Yeah, and you don't do that with that many people, actually.
Well, and that appreciation for beauty came out in the decor at church. I mean, you did decor for many years, as I recall, Anita.
And that was something I was also taught at church. I had grown flowers in my garden, but mostly I grew weeds. And I didn't know how to put the daisy next to the rose. And then I came to the church, and there was this wonderful, wonderful woman named Madeline Evans, who said, come here. You put a dandelion here, and you put a rose here. And it made sense. And all of a sudden, I was doing it. I was chair of the committee, and I could hardly believe that I had come that far. It still stays with me, like the poetry.
Yeah, so the decor was beautiful, and your garden became very beautiful. I mean, very beautiful. We'd always go around with her and say, what's that? What is that? What is that? You know, and it wasn't just what is that? I mean, it was very beautiful. And again, it was like a learning of a kind of aesthetic that I didn't know was actually happening at the time. So thank you, Mama.
I'm just discovering that I can actually add Valerie and Stephanie in on this spotlight. So I love this conversation that you're having about, because it enriches the picture to have all of you. So I'm actually going to put Stephanie in the spotlight also. She says optimistically. I think I am. Oh, I can't do that. I can only do two in the spotlight. Stephanie, you'll have to talk, but
You'll have to talk, Stephanie.
I've loved what you said about having a friend who said the Unitarian Church was a lot of fun. I don't think any of us have ever expressly said that it was fun that brought us to church. And I wondered whether your experience of the church really was that it was a lot of fun, Anita.
Well, there were indeed moments of fun. Not all of it has been fun, but it always, even the non-moments, had a warmth about them because we were experiencing it together. There has, again, the weep, the togetherness has always been so vital to me, so very vital. And that's another reason I brought the children, and they felt it also. They never felt they were alone.
That's true.
Yes, I see people are raising their hands that aren't raising their hand, like Nancy Cook. Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you for seeing that, because I am only seeing a few people along the top. So Nancy, if you have a question, go ahead and ask.
I would just like to comment on some of the things that have been said. Anita was able to find beauty in so many things. Of course, she loved the gardens, but she would see bark and just find beauty in bark. And I remember when we were out hiking, I would see a piece of bark and I would pick it up so I could take it back and give it to Anita for her, how she was using bark in many places. I also enjoyed walking through the art gallery with Anita, Art Williams Gallery. She loved the art in there as much as anyone I have ever known. And something else I don't think we've talked about is her appreciation of how she enjoyed passing out programs and meeting people and greeting people, how that was important to her to be welcoming, how much she transitioned from some of the dancing into Qigong and how that's meaningful. So I think there's a lot of other meaningful things that she's done at church that we haven't heard about.
Yes, I think that's true. And Barb DeLeo has her hand up, and then Jane Tuttle again.
And actually, I'm going to piggyback on Nancy. I was going to, Anita, it's Barb DeLeo. And I was going to ask you about how you managed to stay so well connected. You have really set a model for those of us over a gentle age of staying connected with the church. You moved from doing the decor at the front to doing some things like passing out programs and greeting people. And I always enjoyed dancing with you because we both like to dance when we had Orange Sky doing boogie woogie stuff. And that was always fun. And I was going to mention your involvement with Qigong on Friday, staying active with the group on Friday. But I just really wanted to point out that you have managed to stay connected with our church and active in our church in the ways that you can. And I'm just so pleased to be part of a group with you and to have had so much fun with you over the years. And we've also had a lot of laughs. I met one of the daughters, but I don't remember which one it was. But I remember telling her about her wild woman mother, right? And she got a laugh out of that. So I was on the phone, so I wasn't here in video, but I was driving this morning and didn't get to hear. So thank you so much, Anita. It's been a friendship I've enjoyed.
Thanks. Jane, do you want to go ahead?
Just briefly, yeah, well said, Barb. Remembering back when my father died and Anita put his hiking boots in the decor at the front of the church during his memorial service, which was just, classic Anita, creative and loving and, knowing my father and how much he loved to hike. So thank you for all these years of decades of friendship, and we love you, Anita.
Yes,
and Stephanie and Valerie too.
And telling stories. I remember one Sunday, and I can't remember all of it, but you got up and told this story about traveling in Australia or somewhere, and it was raining, and you went to visit a UU family or something and knocked on the door dripping wet and said something, and they said, and you told them where you were from. You said you were from Rochester, New York, and they said, "Oh, Dick Gilbert's church." And I always loved the way you said that punchline, you know, Dick Gilbert's church, like everybody in the world knew. And you were such a fabulous storyteller. And Dick took advantage of that a lot. Had you in the pulpit many times, as I recall. Yes. So I can't see everybody. So if you have a comment, or Valerie or Stephanie, if you want to add on.
I see David Friedman has his hand up. Is that right?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one experience I'll never forget. Anita was there. I'm curious of her reaction. We were skiing in the French Alps, and this was back when the comet was visible. And one night we did a torchlight parade back from a restaurant to the lodge. You know, each of us had a torch and in the dark, and the comet was up there. I don't know if you remember that at all, Anita. That was just such a special moment of our ski career. It had nothing to do with the skiing, but it had a lot to do with the beauty of the.
It sounds so beautiful.
David, it had to do with the beauty of everything. Thank you for remembering.
This is why I love being together and telling our stories, because our stories intersect at places that we don't always remember, and it just enhances our sense of community and our memories of our own lives. So, Deborah, go ahead.
Just curious, clearly you and your daughters had these wonderful set of experiences and memories. And I'm wondering, Anita, if you had siblings.
I have one sister who is 5.5 years younger than I. And I absolutely hated her when we were growing up because she was going through her most adorable stages while I was going through my most unadorable stages. But over the years, as we have grown up, we love each other very much.
Oh.
But it took a long time.
5.5 years can be an awkward gap for sure.
Especially with parents like I had.
Yeah.
They thought she was the princess.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Any other questions, Valerie and Stephanie? Would you like to add anything?
You know how when the teacher calls on you, your mind goes blank?
Yes, I do. Sorry about that.
Oh gosh.
Where in Rochester were you living during childhood?
We lived on Menlo Place by the Highland Park.
I remember that house. It was such a beautiful area. Yeah.
We had another very beautiful house. We lived at the Unitarian Parsonage.
Tell us about that.
Well, that's a good story. Tell that story. That's a good story, isn't it?
We loved living there. I was able to walk to church holding my children's hands. It was such a beautiful house. And then one night, somebody knocked at the door. And I very cautiously opened the door, and a man and a woman were there. And the man said, "I'm Dick Gilbert. I'm the new minister, and I'm moving in here."
I remember that.
That was not quite love at first sight. It was very, very difficult to give up that house. but Dick was worth it giving it up for, but it took a while.
And that for those of you who may not know where the parsonage was, it was on Highland Avenue. Was it 1895? I can't remember yeah.
Right,
It was,
right near Winton Road where it was easy to walk.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then you moved to Menlo Park.
Menlo Place,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Place, yeah.
And that also came from a dance person who was living there, and Roy Greer owned the house, and he wanted that house kept because he was a doctor and he wanted his children to become doctors, and this was close to Strong. So he kept the house, and then he died. And his house got passed on to his wife, who rented it to us. And that was, I never had to buy it. She just rented it, which was wonderful. I didn't have any money. Just
Yeah, that was a real story, right? I mean, that was like, I would say that sometimes with you, Mom, things happen, the right thing happens at the right time. That's happened like many times, and that was one of them, right? Because you didn't have a sense of where we were going to live, and then sort of this almost magical kind of situation arose for us. I mean, I'm sorry that he died, of course, but
yes.
but it, you know, but the fact that the use of the house changed in the family, like and then they were able to just rent it to us. This woman who couldn't, I don't know where we would have lived otherwise.
Yeah. And Perry put a note in it that it's 1895 Highland Avenue, that she lived there from 1959 to 1962. So there's another connection. And Dave Friedman says it's now resited and a lot different. But I remember when the Gilberts moved out and trying to move all their stuff out, there was so much stuff. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I had something else I was thinking about asking you about, and I've totally forgotten. And it wasn't ski club and it wasn't decor. If somebody else has a question, go ahead. It'll come back to me. Did you write poetry, or am I making that up?
I still do. I still do write poetry, but my daughter Valerie has been teaching me about haiku, which I never ever knew before. And Valerie, you want to tell them about haiku?
I don't know. This is your turn, Mom. I don't really know what to say about haiku. I assume everybody knows it's a 3-line poem. And I don't want to say that much. I've just found that the 3-line poem is very, you can say a lot in 3 lines, right? You can say a lot in 3 lines. And so I've just been experimenting with it and feeling quite excited about it. Like, it's really amazing how much you can write in 3 lines. And
there are never syllables also, aren't there syllables in that?
Yeah, 5, 7,
7, 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows about it, but
no.
No? Okay. Anyway, okay, it's a 3-line poem. The syllables are 5, 7, 5. Usually, traditionally contains a season word. So, whatever, cherry blossoms. And then you try to sort of combine something in the season with something maybe personal. And I guess, I don't know, I'm just a real student of it, but.
Well, traditional haiku would say that you're not supposed to introduce the personal, you're just supposed to introduce an observation.
Yeah.
Like an acute observation, something to do with the season. But because I also write haiku, and that's what I was taught, that you're not supposed to really be personal. You're not supposed to bring emotion into it. That's just been my experience with it.
I think that's I think that was original, or that's traditional. and
Yeah,
that-
I think that's the original way
yeah.
of writing it.
And then, you know, modern people, they're like, no, that's not enough. I have to
And
say,
Unitarian Universalists do what they do. Jane Tuttle mentions that Carolyn Dancy is also, I know she writes a lot of haiku. Deborah has her hand up again.
Sorry, lots of questions today. Anita, you and I were in Wellspring together, and I wondered if you wanted to talk about your Wellspring experiences at all.
I don't think I can talk about Wellspring alone because I haven't had one experience at the church that I haven't found bonding and warm and touching because of the people, And Wellspring, we had so many ideas from so many different sources, but they all kind of melded together because of the way we melded together. But that's a good question. Thank you. Your all questions are good.
We're almost at our 11 o'clock time. Do you have any final thing that you would like to say to us, Anita?
Well, this has been another Unitarian experience that I have mentioned before, how touchingly beautiful it has been. I spoke to Valerie last night and I said, oh my God, I'm such a nervous wreck. I won't be able to do this at all. And it really was. I didn't sleep that much last night.
Oh.
But as always, it has been so worthwhile. I'm so glad I am here. I'm so glad you are here. I don't know what else to say except thank you. Thank all of you. Thank all.
And I thank you for stepping up and volunteering to do this because it is such a gift to all of us to get to learn about one another's lives. I'm going to take the spotlight off everybody and go back to gallery view so that we can all just wave at each other and say thank you, thank you, thank you. And it will be, I don't know, next week we're going to have Joy Collins, and today we have Sunshine, so I invite you to go. And I'm going back to my conference, which is not in Santa Fe. I was supposed to be in Santa Fe this week. So, but I want to say thank you all for being here and for sharing with Anita and her daughters this story. And
I just want to ask, so it looks like, so you recorded this, right?
I did, yes.
And so, yeah, if we want to see it, where do we go to see it? Is it just?
Claudia will post it in a couple of, sometimes it takes her a week, but there will be, she'll send me a link and she'll also send it to Anita. And there is, if you are on YouTube and go to First Unitarian Church of Rochester, there are several different playlists. There's a sermon playlist and a children's worship playlist and an elder tree playlist. And the elder tree playlist has all the people who have shared their stories in this past year and something. It is such, you know, you could spend a lot of time listening to the stories because there is so many fascinating people in this church. And we've only just skimmed the surface. An hour is not nearly long enough. Many of us could write books. And Howie actually has written a book. So. But anyway, so they're always available. And if you can't find it, let me know and I'll send you a direct link.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yeah, very good.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Anita.
Mom,
you. Thanks, Mom.
I just want to say one more thing. My mother can't read the chat. She doesn't know how to do that. So a lot of people are saying thank you. I just want to
Yes. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you from John Horn and Kay and Stephanie and Jane Tuttle says beautiful. And
Thanks, Anita.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And goodbye, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, Anita.
Bye.
Thank you so much.